I'm I'm Kiran. I'm mixed. I'm a lot of things. I'm 50% Indian, around 25% European countries, and around 20% Middle Eastern.
My name is Adi, and I'm half European, half Middle Eastern.
My name's Nikki. I'm half Salvadorian and half white.
I'm mixed black and white.
I'm Karishma. I'm mixed Indian and white. My mom is Indian and my dad is white.
I'm Zoë Harris and I am mixed black and white.
Being mixed means a lot of confusion. It's a lot of confusion. It's a lot of what kind of culture am I assimilating to most? It's what factors of both cultures can I combine so I can kind of have the most productive existence, almost. What factors can I combine that'll profit me most?
Mixed means a whole bunch of different cultures, traditions, mixed into one, almost like a little mixing pot.
I try not to think about it too much because it feels like there's supposed to be some higher purpose, you know, especially because there were like whole sects of people dedicated to not letting mixed people exist, so it feels like there's supposed to be something fancy about it, but it is not. We're just here.
It just means to me to, I guess, grow up in an environment where two cultures that are different like come together and mix, and you know, just kind of recognizing that you have two different sides to yourself, but seeing how like they interact and just how you're raised in that environment.
To be mixed means a lot of things to me and it's hard to put it into words, but to be mixed is beautiful to me, and it just means you're a combination of so much culture and struggle and identity, and I think that is fantastic.
I identify heavily with my Indian side.
I think growing up, I definitely connected more to, well, honestly, both. My family, both my parents were really like involved with their cultures, and I have a big family, like they really brought that out onto me and my sisters. Growing up, I would say it was pretty equal. My Middle Eastern side of the family was much more like vocal and expressive in their culture, so I think that part may have stood out a little bit more.
I would probably identify more with like my white side, just because my dad, when he immigrated over, he made it a fact that he didn't want to really share his culture with us. He wanted us to grow up, you know, white and privileged. That's what he didn't have. He didn't even teach us Spanish because he didn't want us to have an accent.
I mean, not really, because I feel like you can't really identify as white when I look like this, you know, but I'm very whitewashed, so I can't really identify as black either, so I kind of just go like racially ambiguous, you know, technically black, but like, yeah.
My brown side, definitely. Partially I think it's because my mom is Indian, and you know, girls and their moms, it's very much. But I think it's just, my Indian side is just more culturally present than my white side. Like hanging out with my dad is more like an introduction into overall like American culture. There isn't really anything that, you know, we do that's very connected to his kind of, I guess, whatever culture you would consider that to be. So I definitely do identify more as Indian, especially like my name and everything.
Oh, absolutely. I identify more as black because outwardly I'm very black. You know, that's how society sees me. That's how I see myself. For a long time, I identified more as white because of my fear and internal like racism. But as I've discovered my cultural and racial identity, I identify more and more as black.
Oh, a lot. There was a period of time where, because of my environment, I very heavily disliked my Indian culture specifically. It's something that I wanted to minimize so I could blend in with everyone that was around me. And it wasn't until around junior year of high school that I finally started loving my culture again and just fortifying all parts of that identity.
Everyone who has that sort of like Not difficulty, but like if you are from more than one group, it's definitely like can come up that you kind of have this, not crisis, but like internal, a lot of the times you are kind of posed to like choose maybe. But also if you are from like a mixed group or from one side of your mixed group that's more of a minority or like a marginalized group, that has definitely like posed more of a problem. Obviously the European half side of me like does not experience that at all.
much.
I have, just because I've always wanted to learn more about my Salvadorian side. I've always wanted to, I'm proud of my Hispanic heritage, even though if I have to learn about it through school or minoring in Spanish.
Yeah. Identity crises went crazy. I think as a kid, I was so whitewashed because I only grew up with my white side of my family, right? So I think as a kid, I was like so white, and I would see like stereotypical black experiences and be like, wow, I didn't experience those.
Absolutely. I think I think the problem comes when you grow up a certain way, thinking to yourself that you are, Indian or like a mixed race person, but going out into the world and people perceiving you as, white, and it's kind of upsetting sometimes because it erases such a big part of your identity. And sometimes even with people who are monoracial, like it's just harder to connect sometimes because there are all these thoughts about mixed kids, like, oh, they're not, like ethnic enough, or, just things like that, like you're not taken as seriously by members of your ethnicity, and then it's harder to connect with like white people because you have lived your life as a person of color.
Absolutely.
And a minority, and that is just something that's fundamentally different.
Of course, like having people call me like Oreo and stuff, or like saying I'm not black enough for the black people or white enough for the white people, and almost like the colorism and stuff in the community too. It's just like since I was light-skinned, I felt like I could identify as white when societally I'm not.
Very much so. I wouldn't be nearly the person I am if I wasn't, quite honestly, as Indian as I am. Raising your child with aspects of the culture that is specific to you, it allows room for, collectivism. You find a lot of similarities, even just based off of ethnicity. And as much as people don't want to admit to that, it binds people together. So obviously people with shared cultural experiences will be able to relate to each other. It's all about making people feel seen.
Yeah,
And their
100%.
children.
I
Very
think that like a big part of who I am, and for every other like bi-culture or biracial person that I've spoken to, it's a huge part of how they identify and how they even like speak and make decisions, and like you see it so intensely, I think, when you meet people who grew up in the same way, like in a very mixed household, or I don't know. So I definitely I know that even though I was born here, without a doubt, if I have kids, I'm gonna expose them to the cultures that I grew up with, because I think it's a huge part of finding like connection and a place. And when you meet other people, not even necessarily of the same like race or culture as you, but who experienced that similar upbringing, then it's just like such a different connection. It's really nice.
I think it is very important that you're very aware of your heritage and where you come from. I think it should make up a large part of your identity, and it shouldn't be ignored.
Yes, yeah, obviously. That didn't really work out for me because I only grew up with my white side, right? But if the chance is there, absolutely yes.
Absolutely. I mean, my dad personally, when I was younger, he would go to Hindi classes to learn. He knows a lot about our culture, and it definitely makes it easier for me to connect as well, because he's kind of assimilated and has been very accepting to the fact that his kids are a different ethnicity than him, and I think that's really important. And I think you lose a lot when both of your parents aren't the same ethnicity. Like, for instance, you know, learning the language is a lot harder because one parent knows and the other one doesn't. I just think it's really important to teach your culture as if your child is being raised by two parents of the same ethnicity, because they're still, you know, that ethnicity.
Absolutely.
So I think they deserve to like learn everything.
I think it is very important because I personally lacked that as a kid, and I felt so lost, and I didn't know like my Black identity, and that honestly like messed me up as a kid. So I think it is pivotal and crucial to teach a brown kid about their brown culture, because if they're clearly a person of color and they have no idea like about their identity as a person of color, then it just leaves so much mental trauma.